All right, 24 minutes before the top of the hour, outrage across the country as a group plans to burn America's flag tonight, protesting what they call is, quote, oppression by the United States. Joining us to react to that and so much more, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who's considering a run for president, and we imagine that announcement's going to come sometime this month. Governor Walker, what's your response? You know about the flag and the freedom, but at the same time, the fact that it's happening, what do you do as a governor if that happens in your state?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's the law. You know, years ago we tried to stop that. It's a matter of free speech, and that's how the courts have defined it. But I think people need to be mindful of the men and women who've sacrificed, some who paid the ultimate sacrifice, and many who are sacrificing even today. And that flag symbolizes what they're fighting for, the freedoms. Now, at the same time, I get why people are frustrated. I think what happened in South Carolina, we all to be talking about, Republican, Democrat, and everybody in between, and denounce not just the act, but denounce the beliefs of the racist, evil man who did that. But burning the flag is not the answer.
No, and it's
standing up and finding ways to bring people together is.
Of course. And Governor, if I may get in here, you know, when you think about people burning the flag today and the amount of resources that may be devoted to this, should Mayor de Blasio not get in there ahead of time and sort of get in there because they shouldn't be burning anything in general without permit. But this could open the door for terrorists to take action while our resources are placed in one area, and also just open the door for this kind of action right here in our nation's capital, right here in New York City.
Well, it's exactly what, you know, right now, and we obviously have heightened levels of concerns around times like the 4th of July weekend. I still think people are going to be safe and have time to enjoy their families and their friends and their fellow citizens as we do Independence Day parades and things of that nature. But we need to have law enforcement focused on making sure they're looking out for things. One of the best approaches to Homeland Security isn't at the federal level, it's at the local level. It's even everyday citizens. You know, the adage we say here in Wisconsin, if you see something, say something. But if there are resources diverted because of protests like this, it takes away from protecting the homeland and making sure our families are safe.
Surely it does, particularly with all these scary warnings we've heard from people in the Department of Homeland Security. Meanwhile, of course, if you win president, you would be in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. A new Quinnipiac poll has just come out. It polled Iowa caucus attendees, and they asked, who of the Republicans would you like to see president? You're still at #1. And as you can see, 6 people are duking it out for second place. But you have fallen off a bit. You were at 25 in the month of February, and now you're at 18. How do you explain that?
Oh, I think it's just a growing field out there, a lot of interesting choices. I think that shows a lot of enthusiasm, not just in Iowa, but across the country for Republicans. I think what distinguishes us is if we were to get in next month is the idea that people want someone new and fresh. They want certainly someone from outside of Washington. They've had it with Washington, so they want someone with big, bold ideas from outside of Washington. But I think if we were to get in, what would really distinguish us is we fight and win. There's a lot of fighters in Washington who have yet to win. There's a lot of winners who have yet to take on the big fights. I think people have seen in Wisconsin and across the country that we take on the big fights and we win them. And I don't think just Republicans want that. I think everyday Americans want that. They want someone who can fight and win for them.
We have 14 candidates in already. We imagine that you and John Kasich will make it 16, and that's where it should end. But yesterday was Governor Christie's time. Listen to a little of what he had to say.
I've worked in the toughest state a conservative Republican can possibly work in. I am combat tested and battle ready to go to Washington, D.C., and we need somebody who's going to tell the truth. And we need somebody who's willing to stand up and fight and say what he really believes, and I bring that better than anybody else in this race.
Believe that he brings that better than you?
Well, I think there's fighting and then there's winning. I think the difference we have with anybody else out there potentially, and a lot of people have been going to scottwalker.com to tell us to get in the race because they say, hey, you fight and you win. It's one thing to fight. A lot of people are good at fighting. We're good at fighting and winning, not just 3 elections in 4 years in a blue state that hadn't gone Republican since 1984 for president, but winning the big battles from tax relief to right to work to photo ID, you name it. We passed common sense conservative reforms in a blue state.
Governor, why do you want in this presidential race at the heart of it?
I got 2 reasons. For me, the 2 reasons that would drive me in are Matt and Alex. Those are my 2 sons. Matt just turned 21 yesterday. Alex, he'll be 20 next month. In fact, he actually showed me that Surrey thing you were just talking about just last night about the 0 divided by 0. But those 2 sons, those 2 sons are really the reason why I ran for governor, and they'd be the reason why I'd run for president. I want them and every other son and daughter like them to grow up in a better America. than the one we inherited.
And Governor, today Brett Favre has come out publicly and says he could still play. Should Brett Favre come back?
No, we're excited to see Brett Favre's number retired this season. He was a great Green Bay Packer. We're blessed to have another All-Pro Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers. Brett is perfectly fine where he's at. We love him as a former Packer.
All right. Governor Walker, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you got to get back to business. Thanks for joining us today from Madison.
Happy 4th.
You as well.